Hello YouTube, it's the Dbtgamer Show, episode 160, part 3. Today I'm reviewing Final Fantasy IV, the After Years on the WiiWare. If you haven't watched part 1 and 2 yet, excuse me, go back and watch them. In the first two parts I covered story, graphics, controls, music and gameplay. I also talked about some of the characters of the game and why I thought these particular characters were so useful throughout my final stages of the game, and how you can change up your parts to make the game more difficult for yourself if you want to. I also talked about magic. The next thing I want to talk about is a new thing that they've put into the game that has also been in different Squaresoft RPGs as well. I think you can do this in Chrono Trigger as well. This ability I'm talking about is the band system. Basically, if you have two party members in a battle, and if you select a certain action and select another certain action, you can combine these two actions together to create a combo attack. And these combo attacks can be insanely powerful, and they're almost unfair, but they're really, really awesome. I'm going to show off a few to so you get the basic idea. Although these attacks do take a while to charge up. There's a lot of bands throughout the game. This one's called Holy Birth. It's one of the strongest ones. It basically annihilates anything in its path. I really liked the band system. It was a really interesting battle option. It was quite a lot of fun experimenting with which characters could learn which moves. You can also learn bands at certain points in the story by completing certain side quests and certain points in the story. There's also several equips throughout the game. Some equips may give you a really good stat boost, some may not. One of the weirdest equips I found throughout my quest was the Excalibur, which is basically a sword that's trying to rip you off. There's also an extra quest. After you beat each story, there's a thing called a challenge dungeon. If you manage to do these challenge dungeons, you can get some of the best equips throughout the game. I've never actually done the challenge dungeons, but I may do them in the future if I can be bothered. There's also a formation changer. Throughout the game, you can change characters' formations to give them certain boosts. In the original DS game, you could change your formations individually on each character. In this game, you can put certain characters in the back, certain characters in the front, and the game will do this depending on which characters you have in your party. Example, if you put Kane in the back row, his jump attack will do more damage. And if you put Rydia in the back row, when she's using a bow and arrow, she can do more damage with her bow and arrow, and she'll hit a lot more often because she's got more range. So it's quite a good strategy to change your party formation to the situation of your party. Another new thing that they've added to the game, which is a little bit strange, it sometimes helps you, it sometimes hinders you. It's called the moon phases. Basically, every time you use a tent in the game will change moon phases, and the moon phases will give your party members a bonus so that you can do certain things a lot better. Example, Sometimes you'll get an attack bonus, sometimes you'll get a white magic bonus, sometimes you'll get a black magic bonus, and so on and so forth. And sometimes, in certain moon phases, certain abilities will degrade. As you can see, in the new moon phase, my white magic is weaker than usual. Excuse me. So the moon phases was quite an interesting thing, and in some ways it helped me beat the game, in some ways it was really annoying, but it's quite a good feature. It keeps the game quite unpredictable. But if you've got plenty of tents on you, you can sort of abuse it and use it to your advantage if you have enough tents. Throughout the game, there's lots and lots of dungeons. Some of the dungeons are extremely long. The final dungeon is almost brutal. I mean, you go through the first part of the dungeon, which is about 15 floors, and then you have to go for another dungeon, which is about 20 floors. So some of the dungeons in this game are absolutely huge. And this can be a bit irritating. But most of the dungeons are really good. And some of them can be quite difficult. The bosses in the game are also quite hard. There's even some bosses from previous Final Fantasy games. Example, one of the bosses that I had a lot of trouble on was Ultimate Weapon from Final Fantasy VI. This boss took me ages to beat. It was basically a war of attrition, and it was basically, we were so well matched, it was anyone's guess who would go down first. It took me several attempts to beat this bastard. Also, although it was nice to see bosses from the previous Final Fantasy game, they gave this game a very nostalgic feeling. Another thing I really liked about this game was the summons. It's always nice to summon a giant creature to basically annihilate anything in your path. Although in the final story, Rydia has no summons, and you have to go around on a massive side quest, basically do a lot of globetrotting just to get them all back. But it's really awesome when you get Bahamut, because the mysterious girl's controlling Bahamut right, and after attacking Bahamut a few times, Bahamut comes to his senses and basically annihilates the mysterious girl with a giant mega flame. Cremates the stupid bitch for controlling him all the time, which was one of the best parts of the game for me. Another thing I really liked about the game is the fact that you can transfer data from other stories to the final story. When I first started doing this, I didn't really know how it worked, because I thought you could transfer data to each story depending on which story you were on, but it turned out it only works for the final story. But it's still a really useful tool, and it can help if you don't want to do too much level grinding. Anyway, you two, I've run out of time again, so the next part hopefully I'll be able to finish off.